माफ जे न करता मैं माफ कर दूं रासी माफ जे न करता मैं माफ कर दूं रासी यसु दिlahu नार है पर दिlahu नार है यसु दिlahu नार है पर दिlahu नार है मैं पाक साफ हूँ माफ जे न करता मैं माफ कर दूं रासी माफ जे न करता मैं माफ कर दूं रासी.
Well, I'm heading away from the historical critique for a bit to talk about something else that I don't normally talk about. But I've been getting quite a few people who have been texting me and emailing me, especially from Pakistan, from my friends in Pakistan and also in Britain, who are asking me to talk about this woman called Tabitha Gill. Tabitha Gill is a Christian who lives in Karachi. She is a singer, and you will have heard her singing on the introduction to this video. She sings gospel songs, and she has been recorded, and we will be playing some of hers at the very end of this. But she works at a hospital in Karachi. She works at the Sobhraj Hospital there in Karachi, and she takes care of patients, and one of the things she does is they like her to sing and to pray for her, especially the Christians who are in the hospital. And last week, in fact, last Thursday, a week ago, she was singing, like she always does. Another nurse heard her and reported her. And what happened after that is what the video is about. Now, this is YouTube, so I'm not permitted to show you the videos of what happened. You need to go. And I will put the URLs at the bottom of the comment section. Go and look at those. They are hideous. A bunch of nurses started beating her there with their open palms, hitting her as hard as they could, yelling at her, screaming at her. Now, it was all in Urdu or another language that I don't know. So I had friends in London who are from Pakistan to translate it. And they sent me what's going on there. And I just want to read what they said. Tabitha Gill is a nurse. She's a nurse serving at the Sobhraj Hospital in the Sindh province in Pakistan, in Karachi, the city. On Thursday, a week ago, she was accused of blasphemy by a fellow nurse because she was saying a prayer for a sick patient in the name of Yeshua. She was accused of praying in the name of Yeshua instead of Isa. See, Yeshua is the name that the Christians use for Jesus. Isa is the name that's in the Quran for Jesus, and these people were beating her up because she was using the wrong name. Things heated up, and as more Muslim nurses and doctors gathered, slaps and beatings were hurled their way. And I'm going to be showing you pictures. I wish I could show you the video. I'm not permitted to by YouTube. They will not allow me to show it. They do not want people to see what really happened. You need to look at, go and see it yourself. It is not pleasant viewing. They took her from the third floor then down to the first floor and put her and locked her up in a room. And then they called the police. A crowd of people outside heard what was happening, saw what was going on, and they started to form around the door. And here's a picture of them forming around the door. And then one of the men came and he, with his foot, broke the door so that it would open up. And so two women wearing a complete chador, which means with only their eyes. These are religious women. These have nothing to do with the hospital. They are not anything to do with medical staff. They have come from outside. They go inside to her and start beating her, full slaps, yelling at her, screaming at her for daring to use the name of Yeshua rather than Isa. Now, they then pick up a broom. A broom is given to them, and here you can see them beating. I just can show you the pictures. I'm not permitted to show you the video. In the background, according to what I've been told, you can hear doctors saying, Maro, beat her. So they're telling the women to beat her. Finally, the police came to rescue her. This was all happening in a hospital by nurses, by doctors, and by religious women who came from outside to do the beating. Police were finally took her away, and now she is in prison. On Friday, that was not even a week ago, the local mosque gathered as a mob and challenged the police for releasing Tabitha. They wanted her out. They wanted to kill her. They wanted to kill her. And then an FIR, that is a first information report. Here it is. I'm going to show it to you. This is a first information report. Was initiated by Islamists citing Sharia 295C blasphemy law, and charges of blasphemy were formally brought out against Tabitha under that blasphemy law, with the additional allegation, which now include that Tabitha spoke of the prophet Adam and Abraham committing adultery. Although there has been some support from Muslims in the Sindh province and from a few Muslim nurses who worked alongside Tabitha, there remains a larger faction who support the blasphemy law and would like to see her killed. Now, why am I putting this up here? Well, obviously you can see this gets me angry. This gets me really angry when I see something like this. We're always told that Islam is a religion of peace. We're always told that well-meaning Muslims would never do something like this. And when you hear stories like this, you think of it happening in villages. You think of it happening out in the middle of nowhere where there's no law. You think of it happening amongst people who are ignorant, people who just don't know any better. But this is happening in a hospital. Hold on a minute. What are hospitals for? I always assumed that hospitals are a place you get healed. You come to a hospital to get healed. Nurses and doctors have to take a Hippocratic oath. Doesn't matter where they are in the world, they are there to heal people, not to beat them up. Not to beat them up. And these are nurses and doctors who are beating her. The pictures show it. They didn't even try to cover her face. In fact, they were wearing masks. They pulled the masks down so you can see them, so they could yell at her even louder. And they were beating her from the back. They were beating her from the front. They were giving her full slaps across the face. And all she did was, "I have not done anything wrong," she kept on saying. "I have not done anything wrong." That's what the translation tells me. All she did, what was her crime? She talked about Jesus Christ and used his real name. Now, folks, I don't know what you do with this. I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know what's going to happen to this lady. We saw what happened with Asya Bibi, who was caught at a faucet out in the fields with other villagers who started confronting her and beating her up and saying that she had blasphemed the prophet. And see, the 295C law is a law that is in Pakistan, which stipulates you cannot criticize Muhammad and you cannot criticize the Quran. That's what that law is there for. She has done none of this. She didn't criticize Muhammad anywhere. She said nothing about Islam. She didn't criticize at all the Quran. She said nothing about the book. What was she singing? She was singing praises to Jesus, which is what she does. She's a gospel singer. You're going to see some of the songs that she sings. I'm going to end with her songs. Bless her, because she's got a beautiful voice. Does she deserve, therefore, to be beaten up like this by doctors and nurses? These are educated people, crowds that come from nowhere to descend upon her. Religious women, these are religious Muslim women. That's why they were sent. Religious Muslim women wanted to get their fair share of beating her. They didn't even know who she was. All they knew is that she had to be beaten. Why? Because she has blasphemed, because she has used Jesus' name. Now, folks, this is what it's like in a country where Muslims are the majority. This is what happens when Muslims become the majority. It doesn't matter where in the world. Look at any place in the world, and you will see once Muslims have a majority, they will not allow freedom of expression. They will not allow religious freedom. Thank God here in the West we follow Jesus Christ. And thank God we have laws that are based on biblical principles from the New Testament where we are to love our enemy. Matthew chapter 5 verse 43 and verse 44. We are to lay down the sword. Matthew 26 verse 52. For he who lives by the sword dies by the sword. Jesus willingly went to the cross. And he died for you and me. Folks, that's what we're preaching, and that's what I've been saying. And for I don't know how many years, when Muslims have told me that it's a religion of peace, I say, can you prove it to me? Can you show it to me? Where is the one verse in the Quran that says you're to have peace with me. You can't find it. Make war on the people of the book, on the Christians and the Jews. That's us. That's chapter 9, verse 29. Slay the unbeliever wherever you find them. Besiege them, lay in wait for them, every kind of ambush. That's 9:5. Slay the unbelievers until there's no more fitna in the land. That means there is no more disbelief against Allah and His Prophet. That's chapter 8, verse 39. And for those who are believers, chapter 47, the first three verses in chapter 47 say who a believer is and who an unbeliever is in the Quran. And then chapter 47, verse 4 stipulates that they must cut off the heads of the unbelievers. Where do you find peace in the Quran? If you're not going to find it in the Quran, look and see what Muhammad did. Did Muhammad use peace? Was he a bastion of peace? No, he was not. Look and see what he did to the Jewish tribes, the Banu Kainuka, the Banu Nadir, and the Banu Qurayza family there in Medina. He wasn't even from Medina, and what did he do? He threw them out, or in 627, he took 800 of their men, slit their throats in one afternoon, took the women as concubines for his men, and took the children as slaves. So there were no Jewish tribes left after he had been there 5 years. That's the example of Muhammad. If that's the example of their book, if that's the example of the Prophet, can you then understand why Muslims are doing this today? And they will continue to do it because they have to follow their book and they have to follow their man. They have to follow the Quran and they have to follow Muhammad. So it doesn't surprise me, but it saddens me. Because I thought at least in a hospital, at least the one place where you get healed, you come because of problems. Those were nurses and doctors who have been taught, who have been trained to heal people, not to beat people. Not to beat people. And yet, look at the images. And then you go up and look at these videos. They're still up there. And you get upset and angry. Yes, you have a right to get upset. Righteous anger. Don't go out and lash out against Muslims. Please don't hurt anybody. I'm not here to advocate any type of violence. Just the opposite. But it does get me angry when I see scenes like this. When I see a beautiful woman who loves Jesus Christ and her only crime was she was singing His praises. He was singing His praises to people who wanted to hear her. And yet look how angry this mob gets that they want to beat her. They want to beat her and throw her in prison and possibly have her executed. That's the example of Islam. It's the example that's been exemplified for 1,400 years, folks. This is not new. It's not a nice story. It's not a pleasant piece of news. I didn't plan to give this. This is not something I wanted to do, but I felt we need to start praying for Tabitha Gill. She's still in prison right now. We need to pray for her. We all prayed for Asya Bibi that she would be released, and she was 9 years in prison. Can you see why we as Christians all over the world were getting beat up, killed, maimed, all for the name of Jesus Christ? Preaching and speaking His name in public can get you into hot water. I praise His name all over the world. I've been doing it for 14 years here on YouTube, and I'll continue to do so. And I hope and I pray that Muslims will wake up and realize what a terrible faith they follow, what a terrible example in Muhammad, what a terrible example in their Quran. This is not a book to follow. This is not a man to follow, because you get scenes like this. Well, nothing. I'll stop there. This is not a pleasant message. This is not a message I wanted to speak, but we need to support Tabitha Gill. Bless her family, bless her community, bless her church, because they need it right now. This is Jay then, over and out.
झुकदाना आप खुदा जे मेरे अज है ना गवाही सुना माफ जे न करता मैं माफ कदों होना सी माफ जे न करता मैं माफ कदों होना सी यसु दिला हुनार है पर दिला हुनार है यसु दिला हुनार है पर दिला हुनार है मैं पाक साफ होना सी माफ जे न करता मैं माफ कदों होना सी माफ जे न करता मैं माफ कदों होना सी इल ठकवा के नेज़ ना पसली छदवा के कोड़े खा के किल ठकवा के नेज़ ना पसली छदवा के सह गया ताने मेणे चंडा आमानू सीने च दबा के सह गया ताने मेणे चंडा आमानू सीने च दबा के पल भी हसौंदा ना जे ओ पल भी हसौंदा ना जे सजा दा मैनू रोना सी मुआफ जे न करता मैं माफ कदों होना सी मुआफ जे न करता मैं माफ कदों होना सी जदों मेरे नासरी ने तन मन हारिया एली एली लम शबकत ने पुकारिया आद साथ बैठ के ते ओ आद साथ बैठ के ते रोपे मौत भी माफ जे न करता मैं माफ कदों होना माफ जे न करता मैं माफ कदों होना सी करन दी कहलानिया रोज मैं यसु कोलो फजल विपानिया रोज मैं यसु कोलो फजल विपानिया दिल च कलाम वाला ओ दिल च कलाम वाला भेजिया सुबह माफ जे न करता मैं माफ कदों होना सी माफ जे न करता मैं माफ कदों होना सी जे न कर